so atheists need not be intimidated. So basically what he's saying is, look, there's no real problem. Atheists should go on to study theology because it's pretty easy to hone this stuff. So
why make a fuss?
But he has just admitted that there are atheists who are addressing theology and theological arguments. So again, where's his beef? He says, okay, there are philosophical atheists who are doing this stuff. Well, fine. There's no rule that says that everybody who pursues a particular point of view has to be sure. It's great to have atheists who want to have a background in philosophy, who want to have a background in theology, and who want to go on and tackle specific theological arguments, and he even admits that these guys exist. But he seems to be saying, well, all atheists have to be doing this, otherwise you've got no real justification. Otherwise you're being ignorant.
Back to the original opening line here about being ignorant of the topic, and now, ironically, and such, we have this Pew poll that came out 3 days ago, or whatever it was, 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
That seems to fly in the face of that particular claim.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Yeah, the timing I thought was absolutely gorgeous on that. That is not a new finding. This is the most recent poll where it shows, and this has been on all of the news, CNN, every single news outlet. Religious Americans, or just people in general, were polled about specific facts and specific aspects of religious belief. And not polled, but I guess they were given a quiz, right? Or just a specific survey. And the group that got most of the answers right were atheists and agnostics.
Mm-hmm.
And the more devout a believer was, the less they knew.
Yeah, Gio, why don't you tell the account of the guy you were listening to who was saying that
there was, on a particular news report that I was watching while I was at work, that was talking about the poll. They were interviewing a few different people on the street, and, first they went around, just asking people different questions that had been part of the survey. And then they were talking to a Methodist priest who was saying, yeah, this is a major problem, and we really need to have people be better educated about their particular faiths as well as the faiths of others. Then there was this guy who, I don't remember what his story was. I don't think he was a priest or any kind of clergy, but he was basically saying, well, I'm a Christian, but I don't think it's important. I don't need to read the Bible to know what's in there, basically, is what he was saying. And the interviewer was laugh seriously, really? What? That's important to know what's in your holy book. And he's like, well, because it's about faith. And I it's just a feeling and faith. And again, if it was a sort of vague theist thing, that would be one thing. But to call yourself a Christian and not have it, it's well, it's the word of the Lord. Well, you don't know what the fuck the word was. Clearly.
And he seems to think that's a benefit. That's not a problem. The more devout believers are going to be the people who do not, in fact, know anything about their beliefs. They just believe their beliefs. But they don't know what it is that they claim to believe in. And we quite frequently discover these kinds of people on our television show, where Matt Dillahunty, who has an extensive knowledge of the content of the Bible and has studied philosophy at the academic level, will hit them with things that are in the Bible, they'll just be completely lost at sea with some of these things.
There was just a conversation that we were all a part of on Facebook, as we often are, where we weren't getting any responses. If we were discussing something with a theist and saying, well, what about this thing? You're claiming this about your God and the nature of your God. But what about this passage in the Bible that completely contradicts what you're saying? And they were just completely ignored because they either aren't aware of what what it actually says. Again, I'm not going to name names or anything, but an individual talking about a friend of ours posted the Gene Roddenberry quote about a God that creates faulty humans and then blames them for their mistakes.
Okay, here we go.
Read that one, Chris.
We must question the story logic of having an all-knowing, all-powerful God who creates faulty humans and then blames them for his own mistakes. And that's attributed to Gene Roddenberry.
Yes. And somebody responded that, oh, well, I don't think that God really blames us for mistakes, and I don't think that we were created faulty.
She was basically saying that, oh, wow, that might be true about general religions. It's not true about Christianity. And I'm like, Gene Roddenberry is specifically referencing the Christian mythology. He's absolutely correct when he stresses this is the central tenet of biblical Christianity, that we're all born broken and defective. The doctrine of original sin, and that
without the whole original sin concept, there's no real reason for the redemption and salvation through Christ. Because she was getting all like, oh, well, I don't really believe in the creation story as far as Adam and Eve goes. And then there's major issues with that. If you take that part of the story out, then the rest of the story doesn't quite fit together. And by the time you get to Jesus, you sort of have either just a crazy person who's completely irrelevant, or at best, a dude who's sort of crazy but said like a few completely unoriginal nice things mixed in with a lot of really crazy mean things.
I think the real ironic truth that contradicts many of the things that John Shook is saying, which is that your average, as you pointed out before, your Sunday go-to-meeting rank-and-file Christian is completely unsophisticated and in many cases flat out unknowledgeable. They do not know anything about their religion, their Bible, its tenets. They will even boast about this fact. They'll tell you that it's all down to faith and it's all down to warm, cushy feelings. Mm-hmm. And they don't really need a basis for it above and beyond that. You know, John Shook seems to think that atheists are the ones with the worst problem when it comes to ignorance.
Well, and that's the thing that confuses me. If this were coming from someone other than who it was coming from, I would suspect projection. But, I mean, that's the confusing part about it, is this can't be projection since he's not one of these people. He's just basically giving a hearsay account of someone else's projection. I don't know.
Well, he doesn't really
make choose to do that.
He's not extremely clear about too many details in his Huffington Post article, because the article wraps up with a big plug for his new book. So I think that's where he wants everybody to go to get the answers. So the point is, it is absolutely absurd. This man clearly is not on the front lines, though he seems to be fairly highly placed in CFI, of debates between Christians and atheists from the planet Athea. Okay, that's a new T-shirt for me too. I'm an Athean. He is clearly not on the front lines of debates between theists and atheists, as we are at AETV, where we know what real folks are out there saying about their beliefs,
what the average man on the street theist, how they argue, how they think.
Majority of these Christians, everyday ordinary Christians, think that Pascal's wager is a slam dunk. They think that first cause arguments are a slam dunk.
It's even beyond that. They think they can just say something that they think is true and have it not be challenged. Because that was one of the first things that happened. It was this person said, there is actual historical proof that Jesus existed.
Right, in our Facebook argument, I remember. Yeah.
And then when we said, can you give us some evidence to show this? I don't need to give it. I think you asking me for evidence is ridiculous, and I'm not going to give that to you.
Yeah, that's right. That's
what you said.
Yeah. And then we kept pressing, and then it was back down to you guys are mean and bullies, and this is the level of sophistication we're facing.
That's part of it too. It isn't just the knowledge of atheists as it applies to what the particular religions say. It's also all of the historical background of the religions that the theists do not seem to be interested in at all.